Since the modern era of artificial intelligence began, change has come fast and furious. But in the US, that hasn't translated to more users or less skepticism. How can brands break through? The answer is by keeping people in the mix with AI. Hi, welcome to Insights to Activate, Ipsos' series focusing on some of the biggest topics facing the world today. I'm Ben Meyerson, Director of Marketing and Communications here at Ipsos, and I'll be your host as we talk about how you and your brand can find success with AI, whether you're building new models or building a stronger business. We have a group of amazing experts here today from Colgate-Palmolive, Canva's Leonardo AI, Computer-Generated Solutions, and Ipsos. All of them can help your business find its way through this brave new world. But before we get to our panel, I want to talk about Americans and AI. What's the deal? Ipsos research shows that Americans are much more skeptical about AI than others around the world. They're 11 points more likely to say AI makes them nervous than their global peers. Beyond that, many Americans just aren't trying new AI tools. Only 45% of Americans say they use generative AI tools sometimes or often, and that's only up 3 points since 2024. But there's hope. People are more open to some uses of AI if there's a human involved. On some of the most promising uses of AI, like innovating products and analyzing business data, Americans trust humans using AI as much or more than humans alone. That opens up a major opportunity for AI platforms working to deploy new products or for businesses looking for new opportunities. So let's get the humans in the mix here and meet our panel.
Hello, Sherry Leonard. I lead Insights for Colgate-Palmolive North America. I'm also the North America Division AI lead. And I'm super psyched to have this conversation today with a variety of people here because AI is something that's obviously a centerpiece of our business and something that is really accelerating us as we look to better meet consumer needs and drive growth.
Hi, I'm David Grobert. I'm the CMO for Computer-Generated Solutions. We are a company, a B2B services company that is fully leaned in on AI. We've got 3 businesses. One is a fashion supply chain business by the name of Blue Cherry, addressing the urgent needs of the fashion industry to be more sustainable with predictive, sustainable AI-driven digitized supply chains. We're also in the BPO business process outsourcing, and we are supporting our agents and our clients with AI enablement, keeping humans in the mix, but making them more proficient and more powerful in what they do. And then finally, we're also in the enterprise learning business where we've launched a new product called Cicero, which is an AI role-playing program that lets people be their best selves in all of their vital business conversations. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Caitlin Rourke. I work on partnerships and business development at Leonardo AI. Leonardo is a generative AI platform serving both video and image models, and we are part of the larger Canva family. And I talk about AI all day, every day.
Similarly, talking about AI all day, every day, my name's Stephanie Banis. I lead the business transformation, digital transformation efforts for North America, and also am leading up our change management strategy for AI across the globe. So we're really focused on the modernization of market research with AI solutions, with synthetic data. And in doing so, we're constantly talking about the need to keep the human in the loop. So I'm very excited to have this conversation and hear from you all and talk about exactly how we do that in order to build trust.
That's great. Thanks, you all. So let's get into it here. Let's start with you, Caitlin, as someone who works on a Gen AI platform. When you're building new Gen AI tools, what are you doing to get people's attention at this point in the cycle?
Sure. I think right now, in terms of AI adoption, it's less about the new flashy thing to kind of show, and it's about solving actual pain points for people. So looking even at the research that you've shared from this last report and how people are cautious around AI, but much more trusting when they're using it with people behind it is sort of our sweet spot. So we think of it as like a 3-tiered system of keeping humans in the loop in terms of development. So what does that mean? Developing tools that are human-centric. You don't need to be a prompt engineer to use our platform. You can use image guidance to help kind of build out what the model is doing, and hearing feedback from our community. So we have our own proprietary model, Phoenix, but we also work with Google and OpenAI and more to bring on their models to really serve the community for what they're looking for. And the second piece I would say is education. There's so much happening so quickly in AI, it's very hard to stay on top of it. So we have a really robust YouTube and Discord channel that I think are unbelievable resources for people. And the third is standing behind what we produce. So we want to highlight people who are using AI to help inspire others who are feeling a little stagnant in the creative process. So we produce this really amazing report called the Spill Report periodically, and it shows incredible content that you can make with AI that wouldn't be possible without it. I think that's a really great jumping off point for people to be inspired and understand, what can I be doing here? And I think keeping those three things in mind is sort of a winning strategy in terms of adoption and growth.
Is there anything in particular that you look to, any of those sources that you found particular use cases from talking to the people in those communities as you've built out things?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's the visual cues and actually seeing what people are producing with it. I come from an art history background. I'm a visual person, and I'm definitely not a prompt engineer. So even trying to understand how to speak to a model when I first was getting into the space was difficult. So I think seeing what people can make and using visual cues to backfill how to prompt that model has been really helpful for me.
I think the thing you said too about solving pain points is really key, because everyone's looking for a solution to make their job easier, their life easier, to get away from tasks and activities that are not value add to them in their time. So if you're taking that kind of user-centric design approach and you're really focusing on AI as a solve to those problems, then naturally I think trust gets built because there's an inherent value as opposed to a threat, which is often the concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. David, let's go to you now. Now you work for a company that explores a different bunch of AI tools that you summarized at the beginning there. And you're particularly in the B2B world, right? Like you are a business that is serving other businesses as they may serve other businesses beyond that. So you get the chance to look at a lot of different companies and see where they are in their life cycle. What are you seeing from companies, whether they're clients or not, who are succeeding with AI deployment right now?
Well, it really gets down to the old adage, you have to have a plan. Without a plan, you're planning to fail. And so the way we discuss it with all of our clients across our various sectors, whether it's fashion supply chain or enterprise learning or BPO, is to talk about where where can AI solve pain points, and be very pragmatic and practical about that. You also talked a little bit about the flashiness and the hype of AI, and certainly I'm sure every business leader today is probably getting 2 or 3 emails a day, or being pinged on other channels about how AI can make their work processes better. And it's easy to get caught up in that. It's easy to explore pilots that lead to nowhere. If you are thoughtful about the transformation that's happening, and you look at where AI can make a difference in your business, make a difference for your end customers in terms of their satisfaction, certainly efficiency is a big part of it, and everyone in the business community is super excited about what the efficiency that can be realized. But it has to be more than that. It's not just efficiency for efficiency's sake. It has to be about better product development, better customer outcomes, and that kind of thing. So part 1 is having a plan. Part 2 really is keeping the humanity in it, and we've been out there evangelizing that on as many stages as we can get to. You have, number 1, AI is excellent at harnessing data and bringing it and putting it at your fingertips and making it usable. What AI is not great at maybe yet is empathy. And our perspective is that empathy is you need to keep that as part of the equation always. And that is going to be inherently human. Although AI will probably get a lot better at mimicking empathy. So that's number 2, is having keeping the human part of it. And then really the most successful of our clients are thinking about it from a governance standpoint. So they're investing in governance committees and giving them a specific mission to be thoughtful about how and when to apply AI. And we're doing that within our own business as well. We have 3 centers of excellence working on AI in our business, and we have a central AI governance committee that our COO is personally invested in and leads.
David, you mentioned it's more than efficiency, so I'd love us to talk a little bit more about that as well. A number of our clients, of course, are asking for how are you going to be using AI and synthetic data to do research faster and cheaper? And we know that that's a demand, but at the same time, that very much is an efficiency conversation. And what I always see happen is the next turn of the crank is then, but how are you also ensuring quality? How are you also ensuring that the insights that I'm going to receive to make business decisions are ones that I can rely on and that are going to give me the outcomes that I'm expecting to have? And I find that we tend to almost talk all about efficiency, but the reality is it's efficiency for still the same outcome, which is quality that you had before. And so a lot of our conversations with our clients start to turn into what are we doing with an evaluation framework to ensure responsible use, accurate use. We talk about our partnership with Stanford and what we're doing with synthetic data and testing to ensure that synthetic respondents really do represent the human. So I'm curious on your experiences as another professional services firm. How quickly do you kind of move from an efficiency conversation to that quality conversation?
We always start with an outcomes-based conversation, and efficiency is certainly part of it. But it's a more well-rounded dialogue than just, hey, you can save money, you can save headcount, you can do those things. In our business process outsourcing business, we employ thousands of people across the globe, and they're the people that you're often talking to when you're reaching out to a big brand, for help, technical help, account help, and that kind of thing. We're using our Cicero AI role-playing platform to train new agents. And what we're seeing is a tremendous amount of success. Number one, onboarding is faster, so that's an efficiency play. So we're hiring people, they're coming in to do work on behalf of a brand. They're proceeding through the brand's training program, our own training programs at a faster pace. But more importantly, they're also getting into contact with our customers, and they are entering those conversations with significantly greater confidence, like 30%, we've done A/B testing, obviously, 36% greater confidence between agents that are trained using our AI role-playing platform versus not. The AI role-playing platform is really lifelike. It never gives the same answers, and it's like you're talking to a human being. It's amazing. But so that's the onboarding, that's the efficiency play. The other part of it is that the end customers are 16% more satisfied after having engaged with those agents. And in the context where the agent has an opportunity to sell something or retain business, they're also increasing sales on an order of 36%. So the results, are very much outcome-based as well as efficiency-based. And you had actually said, using AI to create efficiency to deliver the same quality that you had before. I think it's entirely possible to raise the quality.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I want to actually drill in with you here for a second. So before you took on your current role, you worked in an experience service line. Yes. And a lot of that was talking about employee experience. It seems like that has a tie-in to me to building out AI plans, right? Especially as we talk about building tools that fit employee needs. If you were starting an AI journey right now as a company, how would you recommend people start talking to their employees and feeling out what those pain points are?
Yeah, so you remind me of the fact, yes, you still lead customer experience and employee experience for Ipsos. So especially as all of the art of the possible comes into play in the customer experience landscape, I kind of miss that I'm not in that part of the business anymore. But employee experience is still very much something that I'm focused on in my current role because we need to make sure, like you said, the solutions that we're building are ones that are delivering a better experience for our employees, are making their jobs easier, are allowing them to do the type of work that they maybe are always fighting to find time to do but haven't had time to do before. We talk a little bit about sort of like low value work that is more rote and repeatable and in some cases boring versus the more high level work, which is thinking through implications of an insight or understanding how to tie that back to a client's business context. And of course, all of our researchers want to be doing more of that. But when, crunched on tight timelines to get our clients what they need, we're always like fighting for time between the activities that it takes to get to the insight and then the contextualizing of the insight. So we talk a lot internally about how we can use AI in order to free up that time for that higher level thinking. And I think that's true across all organizations. So it's important when you're getting started to really be thinking about like, what are the roles and the functions of your people, and what does good look like? If they could spend their time on the most important things, then what would you need to get out of their way? What would you need to unblock for them? Going back to the pain points point. So if we really have that conversation with our employees and we understand their ambitions and their challenges, and we look at how we can use AI to solve for some of those challenges and enable those ambitions, that builds a lot of trust internally.
I like that a lot too, and it kind of speaks to something you said, David, about pilots that go nowhere. I think in the last few years, everyone is getting this sort of feedback that use AI, just use it, but you don't really know how or why or when or which one. And I think as a platform, as a tool, going in and talking to brands, if you don't have a plan as like a human going in, understanding that vertical, understanding those pain points, and you're just pitching this sort of like blanket tool, it is a pilot that goes nowhere. You do need humans and people taking that data, understanding it, and being able to apply what your tool does to that space to see success and to see the return on spend, time, et cetera. Otherwise, it's like a blanket.
Totally.
I think that point too is a good one, because you're talking about that experience amongst a group of people like us who are looking for ways to integrate AI in a good way in our day-to-day business. You can extrapolate that to the points you made earlier in terms of the consumer experience and the skepticism. A typical consumer may not be having these conversations in their day-to-day jobs. So you can imagine even the next level hurdle that they have with the adoption and the exploration of AI and why they do have skepticism.
I mean, and Sherry, I mean, like you obviously occupy a point on the other side of this conversation as a CPG brand. You are not selling AI to the public. You are integrating it into your processes. So when you're deciding how to execute AI internally at Colgate, where did you start? How did you go on that journey?
So I think I'll take a step back actually to the first kind of overarching idea around trust. And we consider everyone in the organization, we're stewards of the brands. Our organization has been around since 1806, so we have many, many, many years of trust built up, and maintaining that is critical to the foundation of what we do. And I think the way we leverage AI and we integrate that into our day-to-day is critical. When you think about that in terms of how we connect with consumers, how we innovate for them, how we communicate with them. So that's really kind of top of mind for us. And a couple examples through a marketing lens of where or how we do that with AI, I think something that you touched on as well. When we link into consumer insights and product innovation, we're extraordinarily mindful of making sure that we're doing so to better understand consumers and better serve their needs at the end of the day. So to harken back to one of the key themes that we've heard a lot about so far, it can help us deeply understand pain points, what are unmet needs. At the end of the day, creating a link to ultimately develop better products that improve lives and are beneficial for the end consumer. So I think that's key. Secondly, when we think about digital, leveraging digital consumer twins, that's incredibly important. To your point, there is an efficiency side to it, speeding up innovation. But at the end of the day, again, that's a means to an end to bring in the human and make sure that we're bringing the best concepts forward for actual validation with real consumers. And then I think third, and I think this goes to part of your question too, when we think about e-com and product content pages and product details, things like that, it can be incredibly beneficial to leverage AI to optimize our titles, our descriptions, get better, more clear product imagery, really tapping into ratings and reviews and consumer sentiment to help drive that, which at the end of the day helps us prioritize accuracy, clarity, helps build trust with what they're seeing on the page, and ultimately make a more informed decision as a consumer.
Yeah, and that was the question I was going to ask you in a moment here. Really gets to that. Is like, so you are thinking about the trust of the people on the receiving end, your consumers that you're selling to directly, as you decide where and how to leverage that AI content or the AI materials that you're creating publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the trust becomes inherent, right? When you think about offering more relevant products that solve a more relevant need in their lives, or when you serve it up in a online format in a way that's just intuitive and answers the questions they have and gives them the product information that they need and doesn't include what they don't.
Yeah.
And Ben, one of our findings from the consumer tracker last week was that 2/3 of consumers who use AI don't trust it, but use it anyways. And I'd argue that number is actually even higher because a lot of times our consumers are end users of the way that we're using AI. So if we're using it responsibly, if we're using it ethically, and we're using it with that good intention that you're describing in something like the content that's showing up to our customers, then we're ensuring that there's trust because we're kind of a steward of the trust of how these tools are being used in our business.
And there's a transparency aspect there as well that many platforms are building into the way that they create things. Caitlin, have you talked at all about internally at Leo about how you help build transparency in your products as they go out into the world when people are seeing stuff that comes from Leo, from Canva?
I think we sit in a sort of a different perspective in terms of how the platforms are thinking about AI ending up there. In terms of where we sit in like the production line of creation, we don't have a lot of control of the end result, right? So we could be being used at the very forefront of storyboarding, ideation, pitches, internal only documentation. So it's a little bit more difficult on our perspective and place. So what we do is we try to really educate our clients, our partners, our users to understand where is this valuable, where should you be aware of using it, and any safeguards along the way.
Sherry, I want to dial in a little bit more about your internal processes at Colgate too. So we talked about how your customers are receiving it. So, but when you began this journey internally in Colgate, when you were talking to your staff, your team, and the insights function, how did you start? Where was the place that you jumped off when you decided to get into it?
So I think that underscoring it all is not only an open-mindedness, but an eagerness and a curiosity, and kind of dispelling some of the myths or the concerns that people have and just encouraging people to dive in. What I'm really happy about as an organization is this kind of belief that AI can be used to drive growth, not just drive efficiency, especially when it comes to innovation. And I think we see that playing out. There's been a tremendous emphasis on upskilling. So we have pretty intensive training programs, prompt engineering to like data literacy and analytics academies, all in an effort to help give people an opportunity to figure out how to use this in their day-to-day job, because that is the expectation, that people are using it day-to-day. We also have an internal AI hub where every single employee can go in and create their own assistants to help, assist with these daily tasks. So I think there's very much not just an openness, but an expectation and nudges for people to be doing that. And ultimately, it's kind of at the heart of trying to get to a much more data-driven culture where this is embedded into our day-to-day rhythm of the business.
Yeah, right. And as the North America lead, like I assume you have a large role in building out those resources and figuring out what goes where and figuring out what's connecting with people and getting them to spur that adoption.
Yeah, it is. And that could be formal and that could be informal, in terms of how that rolls out to teams or how you kind of spark some of those discussions. But I think it's exciting to feel it bring more momentum.
Yeah. Stephanie, you fill that role in the U.S. as well sometimes too, obviously doing a lot of our internal videos. And what have you found, if I can get behind the curtain a little bit here, in terms of what's been connecting with the people that you and I talk to day to day?
Honestly, my favorite thing to do is not talk to everybody about what they can do and what they could do and how they would do it, but actually have the talent across our business come and just present what they're doing. I think the more there's peer-to-peer learning, and the more we're sharing with each other how we're leveraging any new technology, in this case it's AI, but for all intents and purposes, any technology, to achieve an outcome, to make our job easier, to have a little fun, that's more compelling, and I think that always connects better. So what I'm always looking to do is how can I create space for those conversations and those connections. And of course, there's the formal learnings, there's the certification programs, there's the things that we need our people to know in terms of data literacy and digital fluency and so forth. But at the end of the day, where it gets really exciting is when somebody is actually feeling a benefit themselves. And then those who are maybe hesitant start to trust because they heard a good story, they try it, they feel the benefit. And the same, of course, is true for consumers. You'd mentioned before transformation. You've touched a little bit on digital transformation elements too. I think we always, just need to keep in mind this is a new technology. This is an evolution of an existing technology. And at the end of the day, this is all kind of the journey of digital transformation that we've been on for a very long time. So while this is going faster, for sure, we need to make sure that as business leaders that we don't lose track of those core principles that we know work. Leading with pain points, user-centric design, being very deliberate about compliance, security, privacy, governance, and so forth, making sure that we have those training and enablement programs in place. And then lastly, transparency to our consumers, to our stakeholders on what we're doing, why we're doing it, how it benefits them. Those are all principles of transformation that we've all lived and breathed over the years. So as long as we keep that at the core of what we're doing, I think that we can, get over the hurdle of building trust.
I love that you mentioned that it's not like a new journey. It's a journey that we've been on for a while. And the new technology, as you were talking about earlier too, you said, having the corporate culture be data-driven. What it feels like is we've been on the data, most companies, right, have been on a data-driven journey for, decades now. And we're really just at a watershed moment where it's so much easier to pull data into every single thing that you do.
Yeah. And David and Caitlin, so obviously you working at AI companies, I assume you also use AI tools individually on your own end. What's it like getting internal AI adoption at a company that's also pushing AI out to the rest of the world?
So I think the way I'd answer that question is, again, to go back to the digital transformation conversation that we were just having. And at our company, I reflect on, that has been what we've been all about since the very beginning when we began to digitize supply chains in the fashion business. And we've expanded from there. So I think for us, at our company, the culture of leaning into new technology breakthroughs and innovation is deeply wedded. That said, I also compare to the research that you had, and there's different places where people trust AI more than others. And just in my own experience in the marketing sphere, at this company and at other companies, I will say that there has been some hesitancy by some teams to lean into what AI can do, particularly the creative teams. I've now had 2 creative teams where I'm sort of nudging and I'm like, the teams are saying, well, I don't think it's really there yet. And I was like, oh, it's there. We just need to figure out how to do it. So I think, with exposure, people are getting more comfortable and people are starting to lean into it. So, that's sort of where we are.
Yeah, I think in a similar vein, it'd be a problem if we weren't using AI at our AI company. But there's levels to it, right? Something I really like about Leo and sort of where we think about partnership and scope is we could double down on our own model, which is great. It performs really, really strongly, and be only use ours, we're the best. But we're building out these partnerships to really meet the users where they are and understand what they want and what they need. So we have partnerships with Google and OpenAI and Black Forest Labs. And I think you can see that from the top down, because even as Canva, our parent company, is sort of transformed into this real power player in AI right now, is pretty incredible. So cultural wise, it's a place that we all feel really comfortable being in and being uncomfortable as we figure out what it means.
Very cool.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had a call right before we all got together today with our operations team, our global operations team, talking about how to introduce a new solution that we've built to the global teams that's going to change the way a number of our talent work. And she was asking me, how should I position this to them to make sure that everyone's really excited? They know it's coming, they've partaked in it, they've been part of the design, many of them have already tried using it, but now that we're at this place where we're rolling it out, how do I get people excited? And a lot of it's just reminding them that they're at the forefront of a really big, impactful change. So they're really one of the first teams who's completely overhauling the way that they work to this new, modern, better way. And I'm like, let's celebrate that. Let's be clear with them that that's really what's happening here. But then let's also be honest with them that we need their voice, because yes, we're introducing this solution, but the reality is everybody has always been trying to figure out a way to do a workaround, do a hack, make their job a little bit easier. So if we're introducing something that's supposed to be the universal answer, the reality is something someone may have done at some point in time, even if it's not with AI, maybe is a little bit better, or maybe should be incorporated into this. And maybe they've never had an opportunity before to say, hey, I have an idea of how to improve this. So let's use this as a moment, and whenever we're changing something, let's use it as a moment to solicit that feedback and create that stage and forum for people to bring their ideas to the forefront that we've not done before. So kind of going back even to what you were asking about employee trust, if we're using these types of moments where we're changing the way our teams work as a moment to give them a platform to speak up, then I think that shows that we're all in this together.
I mean, I think that gets back again to the data point that I reflected on at the beginning. It's like people trust humans using AI as much as AI alone. Now, there's not a lot of businesses where things are totally automated from start to finish, right? But it's really about that communication. It's like, hey, we are not totally putting this on the computer. We are not completely getting rid of your job. Instead, we are enabling you to make this better. And hey, if you've got an idea, we want to hear it right now, because this is a place and a time where we are open to you. We want you to adopt it so that we as a team can go farther and higher.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's take some questions from the audience now. Let's see what we've got here. All right, so here's one about trust. We talked about trust a little bit at the beginning here, and the question is, so what is your personal biggest issue in your work with trust and AI, and how do you work to get past that? Let's go down the line here.
Yeah, I'll start. So I think it's twofold. I think the internal trust, which we touched on a little bit earlier, is critical, right? People have to trust the process, trust the tools, trust the organization, that they're upskilling appropriately and training and have all the guardrails and kind of guidelines in place. So I think that's certainly something that can help drive momentum, drive the peer-to-peer learning, which we talked about a little bit earlier. I think from an end consumer perspective, if you think about trust in what they're being served on an e-com page, right? Trust that the information's accurate. Trust that, at the end of the day, if what's there, it makes it a more pleasant shopping experience. It's quicker. You can get in, get out, in the metaphorical sense, through an online, platform. But at the end of the day, I think that from a business perspective is also smart, because presumably then you're going to, reduce rates of cart abandonment and things like that. So it's a positive outcome all around.
Yeah.
So, at CGS, I'll put the BPO, or business process outsourcing hat on, because that's where we're, focused on B2C. And in that case, what we're always thinking about is, how can we deliver the best outcomes for our customers, ensure their satisfaction, build their trust, and ultimately be the best brand ambassador we can. So, one of the things that consumers have probably not felt great about is automated call systems when they need help, whether that's a chat or whether it's online. Sometimes it's frustrating because you need help and you're not able to you feel like you can't get it from the system that you're in. Number one, agentic agents are going to vastly improve that, even on the phone. Translating, content, normalizing accents, myriad things are going to make an agentic AI experience much better, and it'll feel like it's human. So in many cases where an end consumer has been frustrated getting a result that they want, many more of those problems will be solved by AI. You always have to have humanity in the system, and if someone wants to talk to a real person, that needs to be available to them. And what we're going to see, and harkening back to our employee experience piece, these are going to be much more interesting jobs for people, by the way, because the problems that they're solving are a little more complex, a little more intellectually challenging. And so the agents get to do much more rewarding work in this sphere versus just telling someone what their account balance is and taking a payment. Right. So a big part of that rewarding work, which delivers great outcomes for the end consumer, is that if the consumer has made contact through whichever channel, and they've engaged, with an automated system, and they haven't gotten to what they want, they haven't gotten the resolution they need, when they do get to a human person, that human person is going to be vastly more capable because of AI co-pilots. The AI will, the average agent deals with 15 platforms in order to solve a customer's problems, internal platforms. And the agents will help, pull the data and the things and the resources that you need from those various platforms, suggest next best actions, prompt the agents about tonality and flags to watch out for, and then also give coaching after the fact, so that every engagement is a learning experience. The other beautiful thing about where it's going with all of this is that, sometimes when you call in, a call is recorded, or maybe someone's listening in, and it's a sample. And with AI, you can really do census level measurement of every team that's engaging with your customers so that you can improve. So overall, I'm optimistic that the trust will come with the better outcomes for the end consumers.
That's great. For me, when I think about trust, I'm thinking too from like a brand perspective is like intention of why did we use AI in this situation. So a piece I haven't talked about a lot that Leo also offers is services through our API. And we have a really amazing AI research team that can build out these custom solutions. So we had done a project last year with Coca-Cola around their holiday campaign where they wanted to have an experience engagement where someone could type in their favorite holiday memory and the output would be this Coca-Cola branded custom snow globe. We made millions of snow globes. And the idea of human powering that is impossible, right? The timeline would be insane. It's just not doable. Like this is a perfect place where AI can make a in-branded Coca-Cola custom snow globe to fit my perfect Christmas as like a native New Yorker spending time with my family versus yours in Florida with your in-laws scuba diving, but still in that perfect Coca-Cola output. And I think that's like a really great place for the end user to understand, okay, AI makes so much sense here, and I got a lot of value out of it. And Coca-Cola got to do way more than just the user engagement. They put paid behind it. They ran a huge campaign. They won awards. It was up in Piccadilly Circus, which was just like the most Christmas thing you can imagine, I feel. So I think that's like a really great place to kind of think about trust as well, of why am I using AI here? Does it make sense?
That's amazing. Yeah. Stephanie, do you want to talk at all about how we handle trust internally? Anything we work to get through?
Yeah, trust internally and externally. But I want to underscore some keywords that came out of this conversation too, because you talked about benefits to customers. You talked about improving the experience. You talked about a really cool outcome of the value of receiving that custom snow globe that you couldn't have gotten otherwise. And I think, honestly, at the end of the day, trust is always a byproduct of receiving some sort of benefit, value, outcome that you wanted to receive. So as long as any organization is still putting those outcomes and benefits about their consumer at the forefront of why they do what they do with AI, the trust, to your point, will come. For us, we have kind of 2 points of trust, right? We've got our clients who want to know that they can trust the way that we're using AI to work on their behalf. And then we have our employees who need to feel like they can trust the way that we're using AI to equip them. And when it comes to our clients, a lot of it comes down to transparency. We have an evaluation framework behind everything that we do with AI that's called truth, transparency, and trust. So we stand by anything that is a solution that a client is interacting with directly or a tool that we're using internally, that it went through that evaluation framework, and we know it has integrity, and we're willing to put our name on it. And by doing that, we're ensuring trust and confidence is built with our clients. And if they have questions for how are we doing this, how are we protecting data here, how are we ensuring reliability there, we have those conversations, and we're honest about all of that, and I think that's very important. The same transparency is true for our employees. So again, going back to the early parts of our conversation, understanding how we can use this for them, understanding their ideas, their pain points to solve, makes this something that everybody is embracing. But then ultimately, same as for any of the end consumers or our clients, actually showing those outcomes. Our employees have to feel the benefit, have to see the value in order for that trust to build. And then once you have that, it starts to grow.
All right, let's look at another one here. So this is similarly themed, but on the other side of things. When you talk to people who are skeptical about AI, what do you say to them? Where do you start that conversation? If you're going to somebody who is just against it, where do you get in there and say, well, here's how we go? David, do you want to take this one?
So again, it goes back to, with our B2B customers, if there's skepticism about like where and how AI can help them improve their business, it starts with a focus on like what is proven in terms of the outcomes that can be achieved. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that we have an AI role-playing platform called Cicero. It's being widely adopted across vastly different industries. It's in the med tech industry, and where people are being trained to use service and use high-tech medical devices. It's been used in pharmaceutical sales. It's been used to help flight attendants learn how to de-escalate conversations. And so as we have conversations with about a tool like that, we usually start out with the relevant use cases that will appeal to the audience that we're speaking to, so that we can show them, look, this is a company that looks like you, who's done this, they've leaned into it. And most of the time you can create the FOMO. It's in the B2B context, I don't run across too many business leaders that don't believe it's important to lean into AI and to figure out how to do it. What we more so encounter is fatigue. It's like, I get one of these solicitations every day, multiple times a day. And, after a while, it's just, you're overwhelmed. You don't know what's hype and what's real. And so again, focus on the benefit, whether it's a B2B, customer and you're trying to make a sale to an enterprise, or whether you're, talking to an individual person or consumer, like what's in it for me?
I'd say skepticism is coming from a place of not believing. And a principle of any transformation and change management in general is people need to have a reason to believe. So when met with skepticism, there's the question, why? Why are you skeptical? Like, what's uncomfortable? What don't you feel like you know enough about? What have you not seen to make you feel like there's potential here? And kind of leading with that human empathy of like, okay, tell me more. And then once you understand the root of the skepticism, it is addressing it with examples, case studies, education. Let's get hands-on with something and experiment and have space to fail. But it's always about kind of turning that skepticism into some inklings of comfort, some inklings of trial, and then letting the belief grow from there.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process too, right? Like we talked about that new stat we just had about among AI users, people who say they use AI, 2/3 say, like you said, they don't trust the AI platforms, but they use them anyway. So it's not a journey with one particular point on the map. Even people who are doing it, like they still need to be convinced that what they're doing is right and that they need to be helped along that journey.
If I can add too, I think there's, in some cases, people may be using it and not realizing it. So they're skeptical of the idea, but AI can take so many different forms. And I was actually telling you this before the discussion, like my mom had said to me, like, I don't know about AI, I'm a little skeptical. And then I started explaining some of the kind of interactions she's had in her week or her month and be like, no, this was you interacting with AI. And I think just helping, whether it's education or it's just like highlighting some of those use cases in people's daily lives can also help overcome some of the skepticism as they realize there's a comfort level with what they're doing already today.
All right, let's do another question here. This one's for Caitlin, for sure. So Caitlin, your parent company, Canva, is based in Australia. Does being headquartered outside the US affect the way Leonardo thinks about trust?
So I don't think so. Large part too, because Leonardo is also headquartered in Australia, like to a certain point. But also I think for both Leonardo and Canva, we are global companies in nature. We serve users across all markets. So while we need to think about what does trust and safety mean from like a regional standpoint, since it's so different per market, we're really thinking it at like a 300% zoomed out lens. And I think it actually is a really great sort of experience for our users because it makes us very user-centric in that sense, because we need to build trust in each different region as they see. And I think with that in mind, whether you're in New York or London or Sydney or anywhere else, you can kind of trust in that we are holding our service to the highest standard from a global perspective. Because while I think geography can sort of shape our perspective of trust, in truth, we're all talking about it from like a universal understanding of it. And as long as that's at the core and the ethos of whichever company, I think you're going to have like a really great stride forward.
Stephanie, we are a French company, and so we obviously when we roll out our programs, we talk about what's going on with the European Union and stuff like that. I mean, when you were discussing things on rollout plans, do you find that the tone is different when we're talking to our international colleagues?
Absolutely. So our teams, for example, kind of our central hub teams that are in markets like Romania and India serving the EU or serving the US, those teams are used to having different types of questions come from different regions that they support. We still have clients that are hesitant about anything being cloud hosted. So of course we have clients who are hesitant about AI. And then we have clients who are like, are you using AI in every single step of everything that you're doing? So we've kind of spanned the whole spectrum, and our operational hubs have to be cognizant and empathetic to the different levels of maturity and the different levels of trust that exist across the different zones that they support. There's also regulation that has to come into place. There's a lot of factors that go into the way our teams have to manage trust and manage readiness. And I would say that it's our teams, interestingly, and this is consistent with the data that came out of our research, our teams in the US, I would say, have been very quick to adopt AI, but definitely do have more skepticism than enthusiasm than our teams in Europe. Also quick to adopt, but a little bit more enthusiasm there. The other thing that can be interesting too is our clients in other parts of the world might be a little bit more interested in experimentation and trial and error, whereas our clients in the US tend to be expecting perfection right out the gate. So it's a balance, and it's always kind of knowing your customer, knowing your user, and making sure that we're not trying to approach anything one size fits all.
That's great. I'm glad we're doing that. All right, I think we have time for one more question here. This one's great. This one's a nice little fun way to wrap it up here. So what are some of your favorite AI tools that you personally use? And let's roll down the line. We'll start with you, Stephanie.
I mean, I've always been a person who's asking a million questions in my head about why is this like this? Why is this like that? So I love having ChatGPT in my pocket, because now every time I have a random question, I don't have to just let it fly out of my head and move on to the next thing. I can actually get the answer. So I feel more knowledgeable every 5 minutes.
I love that. I'm a big ChatGPT user as well. I think a feature that I really like on Leo that I use a lot for both professional and a little personal are LoRa's. So they're low rank adoption mini models. So you basically take like 12 pictures of you, or in my case, my dog, and I can make very accurate images of my actual dog anywhere. He's been to outer space. He's won a gold medal. I think my family group chat is very over the pictures, but I have a really great time with it. So that's one I love.
Great one.
I will say I also love having ChatGPT and Perplexity in my pocket, and I use both platforms, and I use others as well, but those two on a daily basis. I also sort of fact check and like check myself across and see what the answers are like from two different platforms mostly in my work life, but it's definitely also in my professional life, and I mean in my personal life in terms of how I guide things. And then I would just share a funny anecdote. I actually don't even remember what the specific app was, but it was an AI app for doing headshots. I needed to do a new headshot before I started this job, and I used an app to do it. And I was completely addicted. I mean, I kept doing every possible different look that I could do that would be professional. And then when I sort of got done with myself, then I started taking my friends' pics and sending my friends, here's your new headshot. It was just inherently fun to see what the AI could do.
Love it.
That's a great example. For me, I think my favorite at the moment is Gemini Deep Research. My baby just turned 1, so we're like in the thick of, solid transitions and everything, and there's just so much information, right? And as a researcher at heart, I want to know it all. So it's a great tool to just help me like parse through it, create a point of view, especially around nutrition or the right toys for a 1-year-old's dexterity and whatever it is, it's just like a really great place to go. And then, you can dive into the sources as you feel it's fun or it's necessary.
AI babies. 2025.
Can't imagine what their world will be like.
I know. I think about that every day. We're still trying to. My wife recently got a job that's more AI centric these days, and trying to explain to my kids like, I talk to robots. Talk to robots all day. So yeah.
They probably think it's amazing.
They do. They're like, yeah, I love robots. Yeah. Can I talk to a robot? I'm like, yeah, we'll work on that. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. I think this is a great conversation. I look forward to continuing it offline and in the future.
Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. If you haven't yet, you really should read our companion report on Bridging the AI Divide, which shares more great, fresh data on AI adoption in the US, as well as what your brand needs to know about finding success by combining human intelligence with artificial intelligence. We have one more piece of this Insights to Activate series coming, a new AI toolkit sharing Ipsos solutions that can help your company get ahead. Whether you're looking to innovate products faster, share your insights wider with a friendly robot touch, or explore what the market expects from your company on AI, we have something to make your company better. Keep an eye out. I'm Ben Meyerson, and this is Insights to Activate with Ipsos.